Felicia
From the
Michaels,
moment
my
you hear his
princess,
voice, you
has been
know
entertaining
there are
audiences
problems.
with a unique
Joey
style
Coco Diaz has
of
been rocking
provocative humor
comedy
since the
stages for
90s, all right?
15 years.
With her
You've
tongue
seen
in
him in
cheek,
films and
she's been
television,
exploring
but
such
his
topics
real
as the
patois,
dynamics
as
of
his
the
fans
male-female
say, are the
relationships,
stories from
or
his
as we call them
past
here in
and
the
his
studio,
chaotic
dirty
views on
thoughts,
life that will make
and
this
the
podcast
proliferation
a different
of the
beast.
sensual
Raw
feminist.
pain and
She's a little
passion is how to
firecracker
really
rolled up, and that's why I
describe
love her,
this
and that's why
Cuban-born,
you're going to love
New
listening. So
Jersey
tune in, all right?
animal.
Greetings to everybody out there in podcast land. You got Beauty and the Beast podcast with my girl Felicia Michaels.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Delicious little
Look at you.
morsel.
You sexy animal. You got the Daisy Dukes on. You got the slippers. You're ready to go
About to
today.
go down.
Can you believe it's September?
I can't believe it.
It
I
is
cannot
September.
believe it.
Welcome all you guys for listening again. We thought you'd tap out after August, but bitches, it's September. We've been in motion for the last month, and we're not stopping for anybody. You understand
That's
me?
right.
We're 5 podcasts deep, maybe 6. I don't even know anymore.
This
They're
is
all
number
good.
6.
People are sending emails. Thank you very much for all the well wishes and all the compliments. Thank you for sending them to Beauty and the Beast podcast at gmail.com, and keep them coming, because you're our lifeline. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me, Felicia.
I'm fired up this morning.
I know.
I know.
You know, it's tough because as a comic, sometimes we go out during the week to these shows, and Felicia's been in the game for longer than I have, and she's really seen the other end of the coin as far as successful. She's still very successful, but sometimes during the week, we go out to these rooms that we just go to practice a joke. You know?
Right.
Tell them what happens. Tell them how it ends
Well,
up.
I met this girl, and she's super cool, super friendly, and she has this little gig. And I was like, I want to come do your gig. And it was out in Tarzana in the valley at some fucking sports bar. And I get there, and I'm all having, a drink or two. And that's all I'm admitting to. And it's just like, not the greatest experience because no one gives a fuck.
It's not
no
Carnegie Hall.
listening.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's just a sports
like,
bar on a Saturday. And
it's
a Sunday
15 people and 12 comics, right?
Yeah.
And she partners with this guy, and it gets to my turn to be to go up, and I go up, and I'm just going up to try one fucking joke, but it takes me 5 minutes for them to buy into my character before I can spew the joke out. And the guy starts giving me the fucking light. And I'm all like, do my little wink, wave, yeah, like I see the light, motherfucker, like wink, wink.
And by the way, for people at home, the light means it's your time is up. You got like 2 minutes left or whatever.
Right. So I was like, all right, I'm going to, prepare this new joke that I've been working on. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get the fuck off. But he starts, like, getting really aggressive with the light, right? So I say, kind of jokingly, but kind of serious, like, yeah, motherfucker, I see the light, motherfucker, And he gets pissed, and he beelines it over to the DJ, and they start playing music really loud. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I lost my shit. So anyway, I was on mid-bit. I was like, fuck this shit. And I storm off the stage, and I see this little motherfucker running over to the other comics. And I went over there, Joey, and I was like, don't you ever fucking put music on when a comedian's on stage. I was over 3 fucking minutes. And he's all like, well, you wouldn't, And I start fucking chest butting him. I was pissed, Joey.
It's at the sports bar.
Yeah.
Little Felicia's chest butting this guy. You're ready to go.
Fuck this guy, right? You're really going to put, music on over 3 fucking minutes?
If you listen, the cops are coming right now to pick up Felicia for the chest bump. You know what I'm saying? I could stab a motherfucker and talk to him for weeks. Felicia chest bump somebody, and next thing you know, she got SWAT at her fucking door.
I was so mad. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, you're not professional. You're not professional. Dude, I'm the only fucking pro here. Like, okay, my bad, I went over. But don't fucking put the music on because I called your shit from the stage. And anyway, and then what really made me mad is all these other girl comics came up to me and were like trying to apologize away his bullshit behavior. Like, oh, he gave us the light too, and it's okay, and don't freak out the man. Like, fuck you, bitches. You know what I mean? I lost my shit. And here's the thing. When I get like that, Joey, I'm all like, okay, if I'm up in this guy's grill, the most he's going to get in is one good punch. One good punch.
You were thinking that.
I was told, yeah.
Now you know why I do
punch.
this podcast with this girl. People think, oh, we're so much different. We're so much different, but yet I like in so many ways. She has a little temper to her, and I like that. But people don't know. Like, you've been upset about this. You called me Monday
I
or
was
Tuesday,
pissed.
and then you mentioned it this morning. This is why we're talking about this, because for her to mention it again, and it's so weird. When you go out there to do comedy and you're a seasoned vet, not even a seasoned vet. I'm a seasoned vet who's a stiff. You're the real fucking deal. You've been there and back, and you act very professional. So I understand where you're coming from. It's not like you went in there with ego or attitude. People don't even know who you are. You're so quiet half the time. Like, that's Felicia. She hasn't said a fucking word. Well, what do you want her to come over here and be a clown for you like most comedians?
I just get so hopped up, Joey, because, comedy should be, people who do comedy should have like fucking warrior personalities. You know what I mean? Maybe they're warriors that are a little bit flabby, you know what I mean? Don't have any muscle on their body. But you're here to say something, like, and I know my act's filthy and a lot of it people look down on it, but like, if I can say whatever the fuck I want to say, then the world is okay. If someone like me can do that, that's what's healthy about our society and why we're so blessed to live in our country. And when I went to Iraq, that was a perfect indication of that. I told you that already, of being in the middle 6 months ago of no man's land in Iraq, and being able to say whatever the fuck I want, and having our young men, the most physically powerful and arguably the least educated, appreciate what I'm doing, knowing 500 feet away from me, a woman can't even look a man in the eye. And to be on a stage in the fucking valley at a sports grill, and to have some uptight motherfucker put music on and to disrespect the stage itself, fuck that.
Let me tell you something. That's one of the greatest painful monologues I've heard since fucking William Baldwin and Glenn Ross when he dropped knowledge on Pacino. That was real from the heart. That's what I'm talking about. This is the pain that you need to do comedy.
God.
This is what sparks us. I'm writing this one-man show, and I see that ever since I was a kid, I was half a fucking rebel. When I was a kid, I didn't want a lunchbox. When I first came from Cuba, I liked the hot dog man on the corner. But they told me I couldn't go to the hot dog man on the corner. Who the fuck were they? I just left Cuba. I want a sad bread hot dog. I want to be an American kid. But they kept telling me I had to bring a lunchbox to school. And even I just wrote this story about how I brought the lunchbox and I tried to get rid of it, and some kid wanted to bug me, and he hit me in the head with it. I got 6 stitches. But it was that story really made me think for the last 2 days that I've been fucked up since then. And it was for that. As much as I hated that lunchbox, I wasn't going to give it to these kids.
Right.
So I fought for it, you know what I'm saying? And I remember going home, and I remember holding my head, with stitches and blood and ice, and being confused and hungry. And my mother looks over at me smoking a cigarette. She's like, "Hey, fuck them. They didn't get the lunchbox."
When I was a little girl, my mother and myself, we lived on welfare. And my mother had a ring that she had gotten from my stepfather. And it was like worth a little bit of money. But that was like a big lesson for me in life, because she would always send me to the pawn shop to pawn a ring, because she was in a wheelchair, right? And I remember being like 12 years old, like talking to guys in pawn shops and having to go pay the interest, on the way to fucking science club. You know what I mean? Like, we got to pay the interest on that pawn. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
But when you have experiences, it's not meant for everybody, but it's a nice way to see life. You know what I mean? To learn those lessons, to learn this is what you have to do, and you'll do it.
When my mother died, my mom was a collector of really gaudy gold jewelry. We were Cubans, and drug dealers, so my mom had all the gaudy shit. So she was a gambler. And when she lost the bar, her daily income, and the numbers, the Pix 3 systems came, and my mother's primary business were numbers, which is a way of gambling in New York. The last 3 numbers are what the track makes, so you can't fix it, Whatever the track makes that day, they take the last 3 numbers. And then the late 70s, Pickett came, so the numbers business shrunk down too. So my mom was hurting. When my mom died, they added her pawn tickets. She had $220,000 in jewelry to pawn shop.
Wow.
And my father took it out. He was pissed. I remember after my mom died, like 2 weeks later, we were driving all around New York to the different pawn shops. She had stacks of those tickets.
Wow.
And he took all that jewelry, and I guess he melted it down or whatever the fuck he did with it. Diamonds, my father's real jewelry, $225,000 in pawn.
Wow.
And she probably lost it all on the fucking Mets.
Right.
Tom Seaver and the fucking Mets. That's a true story. My mom was a degenerate fucking gambler. Degenerate. 3 tracks a day we would hit.
Yeah.
My mom could hit the number for $20,000 and the next day be broke.
Well, how do you feel about it now, though? Do you have like a negative feeling towards that your mom was someone that did that, or is it?
I have a
Do you
certain
look at it with
respect to my
any
mom.
kind of warmth? You know what I mean? Like,
No, well, that could have been my money, and I don't think of it that way. I think of it as my mom lived her life a real weird way. If I was a millionaire, I lived my life how my mother lived it. If my mom got $1 million, $500,000 she'd give away. Honest to God. To people who she'd make mental notes that she'd seen, like doing something that normal people shouldn't do. Like if she found out Felicia had a night job and had 2 kids, she'd come to you one day and go, don't say nothing to nobody. Here's $20,000. Don't tell nobody. This is between me and you. I don't want it back. Get your fucking shit together. Right. That was what my mother did a lot. She'd go over and the other half, she'd blow in a fucking hour. An hour. When I talk to you about go to a best steakhouse, get steaks, I mean, my mom lived like a fucking Puerto Rican. Steaks, even if she didn't know, you give him a steak.
right.
Give him a fucking beer. Give him a steak, too. Give him a beer. And that's how my mother dropped money. Whatever, how sometimes your kids come up to you and break your balls. Mommy, if I get an A, can I get that special thing? All my mom would have to hear that, and once she hit the number, she would call me and go, hey, I'm coming home. I'm going to give you that money you wanted for the fucking thing. Don't bother me for another month.
Right.
And I would say, but you said it was for my report card. Forget it. Just get it now and make sure you bring me home A's.
Right.
My mother would spend her money in one day, and she lived by the fucking nickel. One day she had it, and one day she didn't. If we didn't have it, we got to make a stop at the pawn shop.
Right.
We got to make a stop at the pawn shop and pick up some cash. And it was just a way of life for her. It was just a way. It was just a cost of doing business. When I was a kid living in New York, I was always borrowing from loan sharks. And people would say to me, why do you borrow from loan sharks? Borrow from me. Why? So I got to hear your fucking story? No. I'd rather go to a loan shark and go, give me $1,000. Because there's no for what, there's nothing. All I know is I got to give you back $1,250 in 10 weeks. That's all I know. That's all you fucking know is I got to come back and give you $125 every Thursday at 5. That's it. There's no like, what do you need it for? Can I give you 5 now and 3 in a month? No, I need the 500 tonight. She wants to suck my dick tonight, okay? I don't have time for this negotiation shit. And I had that same thing. I don't mind borrowing from a loan shark because then I just go pay him his money. Everybody's got to make a living in my book,
Yeah.
So, but I don't admire that lifestyle. I hate borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. It's a shitty lifestyle, and I did it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And my wife got me out of that shit.
Because your wife's a good woman.
I'm really
have a
lucky.
good woman.
Yes, I'm very lucky.
Yes, you do.
I read something 20 years ago, behind every successful man there's a successful woman. And it's really weird because this morning as I was dropping my wife off, I was telling her, I go, you know what? The check didn't clear, and I got $6.73 in my account. I go, but you know what? I haven't been this happy in a long fucking time. And I drop her off. I go around the corner. I get a ticket.
Yeah.
And even the ticket didn't throw my mood off. Sometimes you think money and a girl or something make you happy. Right now, my wife makes me happy, but it's not my wife as much as my situation.
Right.
I had a really good situation, and one thing I learned from you is to always be optimistic.
You have to be.
And ever since we've been doing the podcast, I've been even more optimistic.
Oh, good.
Because we're getting to a few people, even if they are in Sweden or Ireland. We're getting to you
Yes.
motherfuckers. If you guys to send us an email means the world to me.
No, yeah, they're fun to read and they're super sweet.
I'm going to answer them today or tomorrow. I got one the other day that was amazing. Some guy said we should put up like a donation thing on our webpage because we're that good. And I thought about it. I want to tell you thank you for the thought that he would donate money to keep us on the air. But eventually something good's going to happen with us. And even if it doesn't, we're going to be here every week to talk shit and talk to you about what we like and don't like. What's that?
When you grew up, you listened to Lady?
You know that song, Lady, I'm your knight in shining armor. That's a girl. At the bar, I used to hang out with George's Bar and Joe
I
and
would have
Mary's.
never guessed that. Kenny Rogers for you. I would have
And when you
never
put
guessed
Kenny
that.
Rogers on the bar, you'd see all these gorillas, and all of a sudden they'd be fucking crying. You know what I'm saying? All these guys that would shoot you, you put Lady on there, Mommy, they're fucking, in my arms, I see no one else but you. Just fucking, I was telling this story. I was telling this thing
Commit
one
a crime,
time.
listen to some Kenny
Oh,
Rogers.
please, you fucking flip me out and shit. But I was listening to, when I was a kid, about 21 or 22, Dynasty was very big.
Right.
Dynasty at Knots Landing. And there was a bar in Midtown Manhattan I want you to think about this. Like 38th Street, like in Hell's Kitchen, like on 11th Avenue, that it was filled with like people who worked on the docks. And they would go in there on a night shift and watch Dynasty. And you'd walk in there, and it was like $10 to get in for a good seat to watch Dynasty.
Right.
And it'd be all these guys with flat, plaid shirts on, tattoos. And if you dare like to use like, fuck you, they would all go, shh.
Yeah.
Like you were like, oh my God, they were serious about their
yeah.
Dynasty. There were 3 women in the place and 100 fucking gorillas. And every time Alexis talked, the hot chick that was 58, they would die. And I remembered the story, they would die.
The hot chick that was 58.
Yeah, what was her name? Alexis. She was Alexis on the show.
Yeah,
and
I know
Mummy.
you do.
And then, what's her name? Catherine Oxenberg played the daughter. And this last year, and I hate doing this on the podcast because people take it wrong, I'm not dropping names. I got to meet her.
Right.
And it was really weird that she kept looking at me. She goes, is there a problem? And I go, dog, you have no fucking idea. I was in love with you in 1984. Whenever you said mummy, the cum would come out of my ears. You know what I'm saying? She would say, mummy, mummy. Mummy.
Mommy.
And then Dexter gave her a stab, and that was it. I was into Dynasty, not Knots Landing, but I was into, I went to a bar, the Midtown Lounge in Jersey, and they all watched All My Children at 11. And they called it the All My Children lunch special.
Really?
For like $8, you got like a meal, a beer, and you got a seat, and you got to watch All My Children.
Wow.
And again, you were in there like, hey, who's playing the Knicks tonight? Shh.
Right. I wish people could see your face when you do that.
Shut the fuck up, bitch. Dexter's coming on. I am blown away by the success of the podcast, the comments.
I know, it's going well.
I mean, we really are happy. We're fortunate. We got great people listening to it. And one of the guys that's been emailing us, he really wanted to know how we got into comedy. And this week, I figured something out that, for us to get on the stage the first time, there had to be something that sparked us. We all have a date. What's the date when you first got on stage?
I think do I have to say the year?
Well, whatever. What was the date you got on stage? You don't have to say the year, just the date.
Yeah, in February. Yeah, I totally remember it. Yeah.
It's like, and you still remember what you wore and who came with you and how you wrote. No, and you remember the club where you went, who was in the audience, and how your remark was. But when was the first time you did comedy? Or you were at a party, you were at the water cooler, as they say. Oh, my God, he's so funny about the water cooler. Whatever. It could have been a church. When was the first time you were funny that you...
Oh, the first time I was funny. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you about the first time I did comedy. Actually, I say I pick a date that I started at the Comedy Store when my name... Remember how they would write the lineup on the big piece of paper?
Yeah.
And so for me, I started comedy when they put my name on the lineup. I have that
Not
lineup.
to interrupt you.
Yes.
I still have
I
all
have
my
mine.
lineups.
Oh, you
I
do?
still have my first main room.
Yeah.
I put the date on it. The date was over. You saved those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why. I found the other day a newspaper clipping from the Seattle Comedy Contest.
Yeah.
You save those and you're like, who the fuck am I going to show this to? Who wants to see this shit? But while you're reading it, you think back at that time. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's totally true. I totally have something over here with all my stuff in it. But I remember first time I did comedy, I was a stripper in Colorado Springs at the Peppermint Lounge, and I was all of 18 years old. And at the Peppermint Lounge, this comedian came in, Jeff. He came in.
Right.
And all the other girls were like, he's a comedian, and I was like, what? And then he took me on a date, and our first date we went to a lunch. This all goes to how I got into comedy, and I was just 18 years old. He took me to lunch in this really fancy restaurant, and he breaks out Coke on the table. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, And then he was all bragging about being a comedian. And then he took me to Denver to the Comedy Works on a date. And there was a girl on stage, and she was bombing. And he was like, comedy is really hard. And I was like, yeah, but I could bomb. And he's like, you would never have the nerve to do that, dude. I'm fucking showing my titties. I'm 18 years old. I have the nerve to do anything the fuck I want to do. So then he used to book this club, a rock and roll club in Colorado, and he's like, okay, you go on and do comedy at this rock and roll club, or we'll make a bet, because I bet you can't do it. And his idea of a bet, which is most men, is if I lose the bet, I'll do the dishes tonight. If you lose the bet, you got to blow me 50,000 times, because that's how men think bets. And so, you know what I mean? And when you're 18, you buy into it, right? So then I went on stage in Colorado Springs, and I want to say the club was the Godfathers or something like that. I think I'm completely wrong. And it was rowdy and packed, you know, and I went up there and I killed, and then I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And then I tried to do it for about 2 years after that and couldn't buy a fucking laugh. Second time I went on stage, I bombed so terribly, I cried. This is the worst thing. I'll never do comedy again. And he was like, fine, then don't. And I was like, fuck you. I'm going to be better at comedy than you. And that's how I got into comedy.
But before that, was there nothing? What you really got used to, what you're telling me is you maybe learned how to do comedy on stage while you were in between shaking that ass. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't mean to put it that way, but in between every shake, you'd say, hey, a funny thing happened to me at the store yesterday. And then you realize you're
No, but I was the funny stripper when I came out to L.A. When I came out to LA, first of all, I want to tell you about how I became a stripper. Can I tell you that story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
People want to hear this shit too.
Okay, so how I became a stripper is I got married when I was just turned 18 years old to this guy that was in the Army, because my dad was in the Army, and we grew up in bases all over, and that's what girls did. You either were the geek and you went to college, the two chicks out of my school that did, or you married a GI, and I married this GI, and he smacked me around a little bit, so I was like, bye honey, have a nice day at work, hello U-Haul, got the fuck out of there. And then I was living with this girl that I knew in high school, and she's working as a nurse's assistant or something like that. And we were living in this fucking shithole across from the Peppermint Lounge. Now, when I was a little girl, like 13, 14 years old, we used to go and on Nevada Avenue in Colorado Springs, you would go cruising on the weekends. You would cruise at night, and all the kids would go. And I remember even being 13, 14 years old, when the car would go by the Peppermint Lounge, I was always like, one day I'm going to see inside that fucking Peppermint Lounge. I really want to know what's going on inside that Peppermint Lounge. And then, so I really needed a job. I was living with this girl. I just left this guy that was beating the shit out of me. And I answered a newspaper ad for hostesses at a restaurant, because I couldn't even get a job serving booze because I wasn't 21. So I go to this nice business building, and I walk in there, and there's this beautiful woman in a tight business outfit. There's not that much furniture in the office, but it's, pretty sterile, but okay. And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. And she's like, look, you're too young to get a job as a waitress, and it's pretty hard to even get a job as a hostess, but have you ever tried dancing? And I was like, what? And she's like, dancing. I go, dancing? She's like, yeah, take your top off and dance a little. And I was like, yeah, no. And then I left, right? And she's like, okay, don't worry about it. Here's my number if you change your mind. So then I go back home where I'm living with this girl, and we're in this fucking shithole of all shitholes, and it starts raining and thundering. And the lights are on in the ceiling, and there's water dripping through the light. And I was like, this motherfucker is a tinderbox, and it's going to go up. So I called up that lady, and I said, I'm going to go see. And she's like, you know what? There's this like open dance, when they do like a wet t-shirt contest. Why don't you come down and do a wet t-shirt contest? And so I was like, sweaty palms, like, all right. So I get down there, and it becomes my turn to go on stage. And you have to remember, Colorado Springs is like, that's where the Olympic Training Center is. They have all Fort Carson, the Air Force Academy. I mean, that place
Tons
is
of guys.
ripe for a fucking strip joint, right? So I get on stage, and this is always how I like to roll. And I dance to Highway to Hell, because if you're going to do it, you do it.
You got some inspiration.
And I had on tight jeans and, sassy cowboy boots and a tight-ass T-shirt. Or they would give you a T-shirt, a Peppermint Lounge T-shirt, so no one would have the advantage, And so I put the T-shirt on, and then they wet you down, and you dance. And I just remember, now I didn't get breasts till I was like a senior in high school. Like, it was never coming. Like, it was just terrible. So I'm up there dancing to Highway to Hell. I'm sure I look like Courtney Cox in a fucking Bruce Springsteen video. Like, You know what I mean? Like, you know how they do that whole thing, right? And I take my top off. The crowd goes wild. This guy comes up and he throws $101 bills. It's raining money. The hockey players are lined up and throwing money at my feet. And I thought to myself, my God, I found my calling.
Fuck yeah. Shake your titties and get dollar bills like an ATM machine with tits.
Why didn't they teach this in high school?
No, they would never. They want you to fucking live and get from 9 to 5 and get taxed and what the fuck.
It was awesome. And then I won like $500 and I could move out of that fucking place. And then I would go back like once a week for the contest, like 7 weeks in a row. And finally, the gangster that owned that fucking joint, he came up to me and he was like, you can't come back here anymore and do the contest. You got to work here. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. So I showed up. They gave me the day shift first, which is like death. But I like the day shift. The day shift, you don't make as much money, but you can just park your ass at the bar and just bullshit. That's probably how I got good at comedy, because I'd be like, my stage name was Stevie, after Stevie Nicks. And because I had long, fucked up hair, you know. And I remember I go in there, and it's creepy. Walking to a strip club when the light's still on outside, it's kind of gross. It's like doing coke and waking up in the morning like, ooh, you know what I mean? You know, you can smell the place, you know, before the chicks get in there and put their perfume on. It's pretty gross. So I walk in there, and the guy's like, yeah, go downstairs and get changed. And I walk downstairs into the basement where they had all the dressing rooms. And I hear like a fight going on, like struggling, and I'm like, as I'm walking down the stairs, and I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? And I peek around the corner. Now you have to remember, you know, Colorado, there's these two skanky stripper biker chicks beating the fuck out of another stripper. I mean, like it's like the Matrix, but in like a stinky stripper's locker room.
You're looking at this shit,
and I was like,
oh
shit.
Fuck.
Oh shit, you know, and I walk back upstairs, and the guy's like, come on, and the shift is starting to get going, and I'm like, don't squeal, bitch, because I hate a squealer, but don't squeal. And so I went back down the stairs, and I sat in the middle of the stairway and wait till they beat the fuck out of this chick. And then the two big stripper chicks, you know, walked up, and they were like, did you see anything? I said, no. And they're like, don't steal our customers. And I was like, I'm not gonna ever steal your fucking customers. But that's how I got into stripping. That's crazy, right?
Fucking blown away. I'm sitting here looking at her, and she's telling me this, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I mean, I have to tell you, I was very lucky at an early age to understand don't do drugs or drink when I'm doing it, which, quite frankly, was difficult. But I saw how that could be a terrible combination.
They've never showed the other side of stripping like that. But, oh, my God, when you walked in and see that bitch getting beat up.
Oh, shit. I was 18 years old.
You sucked me in. I was like, wow. I seen the whole thing. Like, you know what? I'm going to go down here and make 500. All of a sudden, you're like, and two tattooed, toothless, shotgun Willie reject bitches that are now in Colorado Springs because the health department didn't catch up with them in Denver. You know what I'm saying? The health department was on their tail, Jack. I was on a bus once from Rochester to Buffalo, or vice versa. I was doing comedy. This is 10 years ago. And a girl sat in the chair next to me, and she was talking about that in New York State, to dance, you have to have a health license.
Really?
And they rejected hers because she had lice in Buffalo. So she was going to dance in Rochester. She's telling us this, and I'm sitting there going, oh, my God, how fucking white trash are you? She's like, I had lice, so they suspended me for 30 days, but I could go dance in Rochester.
Right.
And the girl's like, do you still have the lice? She's like, yeah, I have it everywhere, but I'm going to shave tonight and put the shampoo on. And the bus is packed, and she's sitting there, and I'm behind her. And it was just crazy. I mean, the health department is after you. Listen, I've had cops after me, drug dealers, but the health department's looking for you. You know what I'm saying? That pussy's fucking nasty when the health department shut you down, you know?
And here's the thing about the whole stripping thing. I was very ashamed that for a long time that I had done that, and I didn't breathe a word of it to very many people. And in fact, when I did Playboy, if they would have known I had been a stripper, they would have never allowed me into Playboy because they don't dig on that shit as much. And I you know, I'm glad that I did it because it brought me to comedy. I would have never met someone.
What a bridge!
Yeah,
what
it was my bridge.
Stripping,
it was my bridge,
you know
and I get a lot of shit from people like you shouldn't talk about certain things because it'll affect your kids, and And it's just like, you know what?
With the internet, they're gonna find out
They're
eventually,
gonna find out
and then they're gonna
anyway.
think
And
you're a fucking farce for not telling them. They're gonna think you're a
yeah,
fake. They're gonna
yeah.
say, you know what, Ma, you were never straight up with us. I mean, there's certain ages you could break shit to your kids,
Right.
and I'm sure when your kids get older, you're gonna say, you know what?
Yeah.
I stripped once, and they're gonna fucking drop their fork.
Yeah.
And you're gonna say, let me tell you my story. You know, my mom, and they'll look at you and they'll look at it from a different angle.
Right.
But it's really weird. You know, I
Yeah.
always had I don't like strip clubs just because I feel uncomfortable in them. You know, I just feel uncomfortable. I feel bad for the girls. I see a girl grinding on my fucking stinky balls, and I'm like, this girl doesn't even know. You know what I'm saying? I feel bad. I don't know what it is. I feel the sadness in there, and I always have. Even as a child, I always felt like I'm having a good time, but something isn't right here.
Really?
Yeah, even when I told you, I told the
Right.
story on podcast too about the Meadowlands Inn and the bottles.
Right.
And I knew those people. I knew that girl. I knew her family. And I remember being out with her brother, getting liquor, and also some guy would go, Coco, what's up, bro? You missed the Meadowlands. Tina sounded a bottle of Galliano on it right in front of the
Right,
kid. The
right.
kid was 14 years old.
Right.
And he's hearing this shit. And that's when I seen the heartache from it, that there was good and there was bad, you know?
But you know, Joey, I see it a different way. Absolutely, there is heartache with some women that do it. But you know what? Not everyone is a lost soul. That
No.
is doing
There's
that.
just some
And-
independent women that
and-
say, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going
and
to deal with this shit.
Absolutely, and there's some women, you know, like for me, and I'm not, and you see how I am as a person. I don't flash my shit around. You know, I feel embarrassed being in a bathing suit, but for me, it was way more freeing of an experience than being with someone who hit on me or being, working. I couldn't even get a job. I mean, I was 18 years old. I couldn't even get a job. But for me, I see it differently because I knew so many girls that were studying to go to school. Yeah, were there people that were drowning in the whole idea of it who didn't succeed? But you know what? I see people like that married in an unhappy marriage that are drowning. You know what I mean? It's like when I worked on, I told you when I was a photographer's assistant and I worked with this guy, Michael Greco, and he did a coffee table book. I spoke about this on the porn industry at the AVNs. And so I went with him as his assistant, as did 10 to 12 other people there. And it was a lot of hard work. And it was one of my jobs to go and pull the girls off the floor for him to photograph them. And yeah, some girls, you were walking back there and they were carrying a cup of whiskey, and you're like, this is fucking sad, and this girl shouldn't be doing this, and this is ruining this girl, and it makes your heart bleed for them. But there are other chicks like, you know what, this chick is meant to do this. This isn't crumbling this chick. This is,
She's getting stronger from this.
This is
making
this is
empowering
business.
Her in a way. Yeah,
this is business.
amazing,
This is
man.
like UFC. It's fucking business. I'm sure at UFC there's some guys you're like, what the fuck, dude? Stop it already. And then there's other guys you're like, this person is here to fucking throw it down. And that's how it is with everything. So I remember when I was doing comedy and I had stopped doing stripping and it was like a state secret and I wouldn't let any of the other comedians know. And then one time I was working in San Jose with some guys and they're like, we're going to go to strip club, and I would go. It didn't bother me, but I'd get pissed off because they wouldn't tip the girls. Like, fuck you, I would tip the girls. Tip these fucking girls.
Motherfuckers. They're working. Yeah.
Trust me, when that girl's grinding her fucking monkey up against your knee, she's thinking about her shopping list or her kid she has to pick up or that homework she has to do for her class.
You picked up my time to leave me, Lucy. Only got 400 children in a cot in the field. Tremendous. Look,
Yeah.
I get teary-eyed.
Yes,
Tremendous.
you are
This is
teary-eyed.
history, people.
You're teary-eyed.
Teary-eyed. I love all that
my
shit. I love all that. There was so much raw emotion.
Right.
And I remember going to see him and going, I wouldn't fuck that dude, because when he comes up on stage, you got the white beard. Fuck that most interesting man in the world. Kenny Rogers
Can I
was...
get you a tissue?
No, fuck this shit. I'll wipe it on my shirt, bitch, so the prey can smell it. When women smell tears on your shirt, they come, just like Kenny Rogers. They don't even have to hear fucking... They don't even have to. I just rub some on my shirt, and women are like, ooh, that's an interesting odor you have. It's called tears,
Pokes
bitch.
his finger. Oh, he
Yeah.
can't poke his head. Faints. Gets up. Wipes.
Oh, forget it.
Oh my God.
I'm a pussy
that's
magnet between the crying
That
and the
is
fucking
hilarious.
needles and shit like that.
You know, it is an awesome thing when you're watching something at a like if you're at a music show and it's such a beautiful moment where the whole audience is enraptured. Sometimes it makes me tear up, things like that too. Like I had one time I was somewhere and I saw the most beautiful tree, and I can't explain it, but it was just
Which is very powerful. The energy
very
from the
powerful,
tree.
and it made me tear up. And then when I was married, I told my husband, I saw this tree today, and it made me cry. And then from that point on, we were just never the same because he thought I was fucking crazy.
He thought you were fucking crazy.
Yeah.
When I watched that James Brown video the first time, I cried because it's the
yeah.
pure talent. When I watched Bill Withers, whenever I still hear that song, I still cry. Because I could feel his pain. I put up a concert where I was touched. One of the biggest concerts ever that I was touched more than ever was New Year's 1980. Me and Fernie Bassasudo, my buddy Fernie, did like 3 Quaaludes apiece and went over to the Ritz to see the B-52s on New Year's Eve. Hot off that first album, Rock Lobster, Dance This Mess Around, 52 girls. And there's one point, and there was when the original guitarist was alive. And he was fucking tearing it up there. Bam, 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 bam. Lobster. And that part where they go deep, when everybody, at one point, I remember turning around, and there was, 800 people, and they were all moving to the same beat.
Oh, yeah.
And my legs went out from under me. And it was just amazing. It was amazing. Boys in bikinis, girls in surfboards. Right when he goes, everybody's rocking. Right. Everybody's grooving, and you turn around. Oh my God!
By the way, when I go to a concert, half the concert I'm turned around,
me too.
looking
I'm
looking
around
audience,
to see the
seeing
reaction.
how
That's
they're
the artist party.
Yeah.
That's Marlon Brando shit. Marlon Brando would sit at a payphone for hours and close the door. Remember the old payphones? And he would just sit there and look at people walk by on Broadway, on Sunset. Yeah, that's what you do. You're people watching.
You needed some of those drugs.
What's that?
You needed some of those drugs.
Boys in bikinis. This week I posted a video on there that I didn't get a good reaction to it because people didn't dig it. It's the blonde girl from the B-52s, Dance This Mess Around. It was shot like 5 years earlier, and it is the most purest video you've ever seen when she's singing. And if you're a B-52 fan, even if you're not, they have a lot of great videos on YouTube. One of the most interesting videos they have is a black and white video when they were in college in Atlanta, and they're singing Rock Lobster. And at the end, people getting up and they go, "Don't forget to tip the waitress." And it was the girl from the band with the big hairdo. She was out there singing and waitressing at the same time. As an artist, if that doesn't touch you, bitch, I don't know what does. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what does. She was singing, and then she got to go fucking pick up glasses. And it's such a different, sphere that you really got to appreciate it. So that's it. That's my video piece. You heard everything I had to say. Felicia Michaels, today was one of the best podcasts I've ever been involved with you on. Really, your beauty is overwhelming.
Wow.
And I want you people all, whatever. By the time you get this, you've had a great weekend. So we love you. And Felicia, tell them where to send our email.
If you have anything you would like us to watch on YouTube, any kind of really cool music thing or piece of artwork, why don't you shoot us a message at beautyandthebeastpodcast@gmail.com.
And take your time, but hurry up. You know what I'm saying? Because we want to hear from you people. Again, thank you very much for listening, man. We had a great time.
Yeah.
I'm here with tears in my eyes, so the podcast was strong. I love you, cocksuckers. Stay black. Give him a kiss, Felicia. There you go.